I thought postpartum would be hard, but nothing prepared me for what I woke up to one afternoon: my sister-in-law breastfeeding my newborn without permission. When I told my husband, he defended her. They said I was overreacting. That I was just tired. Just hormonal. So I stayed quiet, until I didn't. What followed was a silent escape, a growing folder of evidence, and a custody war that exposed one family's disturbing secret. They thought I was weak, but I became the storm they never saw coming. Hi Reddit. My name's Jenna. And I guess I never thought I'd be that woman, the one with a newborn strapped to her chest, walking away from the only life she thought she had, while the world burned quietly behind her. But I was. Emma was just 6 days old when it all began to unravel. My body still ached from the C-section, like someone had sliced me in half and stitched me back together with fishing line. I could barely sit up without pain. I was bleeding, leaking, exhausted, emotional, and so in love with this tiny, perfect human who looked just like me around the eyes. Matt, my husband, was trying, I guess. But it was clear early on that the newborn phase wasn't what he'd signed up for. He'd rock her for 5 minutes and then hand her off like a hot potato. He'd disappear into the garage or scroll his phone while I struggled with the latch, or cried silently in the bathroom because breastfeeding felt like shards of glass on my skin. Enter Alyssa, his older sister. Mother of 3, Pinterest perfect, smug in that way that some women are when they think they've cracked the code of motherhood. At first, I was grateful. She brought freezer meals. Rocked Emma so I could nap. Told me not to worry, that no one really bonds instantly, it's okay. But that changed fast. Her comments started small. Passive-aggressive little jabs wrapped in sugar. Oh, you're not breastfeeding? Poor Emma. Nothing beats the real thing. Or, Matt was always such a hands-on uncle with my kids. Maybe he's just not connecting with formula-fed babies? The worst part? Matt never said anything. If I rolled my eyes or vented later, he'd shrug it off. She means well. You know how Alyssa is. Yeah. I was starting to. She'd show up unannounced, let herself in with the spare key, scoop up Emma like she owned her. Once I caught her sniffing Emma's head and whispering, "I missed this smell so much." I laughed it off. Hormones. Sleep deprivation. I told myself I was being dramatic. Then, on day 6, I woke up in a haze. I'd taken a pain pill the night before, trying to get just a few hours of uninterrupted rest. The sun was out. My breasts were aching. The baby monitor was silent. And Emma was gone. I flew out of bed, tore the covers off, nearly passed out from the pain. I stumbled downstairs, heart pounding, calling her name like she could answer. And then I saw it. Alyssa. On my couch. Shirt lifted, my daughter latched to her breast. For a second, I froze. My brain couldn't compute what I was seeing. It was so grotesque, so wrong, that I thought I must still be dreaming. Then I screamed. She startled but didn't even look ashamed. Just gave me this condescending little smile. "Relax, Jenna," she said. "Breast milk is breast milk. I was just helping while you were sleeping." Helping. She thought she was helping. I rushed over and yanked Emma from her arms, clutching her to my chest, even though I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Matt came in from the kitchen, half a bagel in his hand. "What the hell is going on?" I told him. I told him what she did, what I saw. And do you know what he said? She meant well. "You're being too emotional. Alyssa's like a second mom anyway." A second mom. Something inside me snapped so quietly, it didn't even make a sound. I didn't cry. I didn't scream again. I just turned, walked upstairs, and locked myself and Emma in the nursery. And that's when I knew I wasn't safe here anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the rocking chair, Emma bundled against my chest, her tiny breaths brushing my collarbone. My arms ached from holding her, but I couldn't put her down. I couldn't stop staring at the door, half expecting Alyssa to just walk in. Matt knocked once around midnight. "Jenna. Come on. Let's talk about this. I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself not to scream. He stayed out there a few minutes, muttered something about me being dramatic, and then walked away. I heard his footsteps fade. The baby stirred. I cried silently into her blanket, not just because of what happened, but because I knew it wasn't over. Alyssa didn't even leave that night. When I finally came down the next morning, she was sitting at the table, eating pancakes Matt had made. Like nothing had happened. She looked up and smiled like we were girlfriends catching up over brunch. I know yesterday was intense, she said, but I just want you to know, I forgive you. New moms go through a lot. I didn't speak. I just stared at her, wondering how someone could be so delusional. She wasn't embarrassed. She was self-righteous. I wanted to scream at Matt to get her out. To defend me. To see what was happening. But instead, he said, Alyssa's offered to help out more this week, so you can rest. I think it's a good idea. I felt like I was in a nightmare. No one was hearing me. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't ungrateful. I was a mother who just found someone else lactating her child without consent and being told I should be thankful. That night, while Matt and Alyssa watched TV downstairs, I locked myself in our bedroom with Emma. I started a new note on my phone, evidence. I wrote down everything. Dates. Comments. Exact quotes. I added screenshots from texts Alyssa had sent, things like Emma's smile looks just like mine when I nursed my babies, and if you're not going to use your milk, I will. LOL. Not funny. I found old photos on Facebook from Alyssa's baby shower years ago. Comments from her cousin talking about how weird it was that Alyssa offered to nurse her newborn at a family barbecue. I took screenshots. I saved photos of Alyssa holding Emma, too close, too often, too possessive. I even found a shot she'd posted without asking me, baby girl back in my arms again. My little angel. My little angel. I started a Google Drive folder and backed everything up. I didn't have a lawyer yet. I didn't have a plan. But I had a growing digital paper trail of something deeply, disturbingly wrong. And I had one person I could trust, my sister, Katie. I called her the next day while Matt was at the store and Alyssa was in the backyard playing auntie with Emma. I told her everything. I don't even remember half of what I said because I was shaking so hard. I just remember her voice at the end, calm, steady. Jenna. Pack a bag. I'm coming tonight. I hung up and went to the nursery. I closed the door. I picked up my baby. And I whispered in her ear, we're leaving. Mommy's got you now. Katie pulled up just after 10 p.m. I'd timed everything down to the minute. Matt had gone to bed early, probably sick of the drama. Alyssa was staying the night in the guest room, her third night in a row. I heard her brushing her teeth as I slipped into the nursery and packed the last few things into Emma's diaper bag. Documents. Birth certificate. Insurance. My ID. Emma's pediatric records. I had everything in a waterproof folder tucked into the bottom of a tote. I wrapped Emma in a soft blanket, held her close, and crept down the stairs like a thief in my own home. Katie's car lights flashed once, just like we'd planned. I didn't even buckle Emma into the car seat until we were a block away. My hands were shaking too badly. Once we hit the highway, I exhaled for the first time in days. Katie didn't ask questions right away. She just turned the heat up and said, "You're safe now." I broke down crying in her passenger seat like a child. We drove through the night, 3 hours to her apartment in the city. It was small, cluttered, loud with street noise, but it was ours. She set up a makeshift crib with pillows and towels. I fell asleep next to Emma, feeling a strange mix of grief and relief. I'd left my husband. I'd just disappeared in the middle of the night with our newborn. And yet, for the first time since giving birth, I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, Matt called. 5 missed calls. Then texts. Where are you? Is Emma okay? You can't just take her like this. You're being cruel. I didn't answer. I wanted to scream I'm being protective, but I knew he wouldn't hear it. Then came the guilt-tripping voicemails. The shaky voice. Then I'm sorry, babe. I didn't know you were feeling this way. We can fix this. But he never once mentioned what Alyssa did. Not once. Instead, he kept saying we'll all sit down and talk. Like I'd misunderstood. Like I was just emotional. That word again. Katie had a friend who was a family law paralegal. We met with her 2 days later. I laid everything out, my story, my screenshots, the photos, the texts. She didn't look surprised. She looked angry. People think if it's not sexual or violent, it's not abuse, she said. But what Alyssa did? That's a deep, deliberate violation. She crossed a boundary that doesn't just get blurred, it disappears. We filed for emergency custody that afternoon. I documented everything again. I printed my screenshots, made a folder for court. Katie helped me write a statement. The paralegal referred us to a lawyer. Things moved faster than I expected. I hadn't even told my parents yet. When I finally did, they were horrified. My mom started crying over the phone. She nursed your baby without asking? What the hell is wrong with her? Matt's family, of course, had a different response. His mother left me a voicemail laced with syrupy venom. I'm disappointed, Jenna. This family welcomed you, and you're tearing it apart. No mention of Alyssa. No mention of Emma. They weren't angry that I left. They were angry I was making noise. Meanwhile, my drive folder kept growing. Katie helped me track down Matt's cousin, Sarah. She distanced herself from the family years ago. And when I told her why I was reaching out, she didn't hesitate. She did the same thing with my baby, she said. Tried to nurse her while I was in the shower. I told her to never come near us again. I asked if she'd write a statement. She said yes. And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. The first court hearing was scheduled within 2 weeks. It wasn't a full custody trial, just a temporary hearing to establish emergency placement. But I knew this was my moment to set the tone. I wasn't some fragile, hysterical new mom. I was a woman who had seen something deeply wrong and refused to ignore it. Matt showed up in a button-down shirt and forced concern on his face. His lawyer opened with the usual, that I'd left impulsively, that I was emotionally unstable, possibly dealing with postpartum depression. I kept my expression neutral, even as my stomach twisted. Then my lawyer stood up and calmly laid out the facts: my surgery recovery, my documented pain medication use, Alyssa's behavior, the unsolicited breastfeeding. She presented screenshots. The one of Alyssa's "if you're not going to use your milk, I will" message hit the courtroom like a dropped plate. Then the statement from Sarah. Then the comment thread from Facebook. Then a voicemail Alyssa left me 2 days after I left. You made a huge mistake, Jenna. That baby needs me. Not some broken woman who can't even handle nursing. Even the judge flinched at that one. Matt stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. His lawyer tried to pivot. There's no criminal history here. No official CPS reports. Just emotionally charged accusations. But the judge cut him off. I don't need a CPS report to recognize when a boundary has been violated, sir. Especially one as personal and invasive as this. I was granted temporary sole custody. Matt would have supervised visitation if I agreed. The court recommended he undergo parental counseling first. I left the courtroom shaking. It wasn't over, not by a long shot. But I'd won the first battle. Word started to spread. Alyssa's reputation took a nosedive overnight. Her mommy influencer Instagram went private. The PTA she chaired at her kid's school quietly removed her from leadership. I heard through a mutual friend that another mom confronted her at the playground. You think you can just nurse other people's babies because you mean well? That's sick. She stopped showing up at school events altogether. Matt, meanwhile, was unraveling. He sent long, rambling texts late at night. I didn't know what to do. You made me choose between my wife and my sister. You're making this bigger than it is. But it was big. It was massive. Because I'd trusted him with our daughter. And he'd handed her over to someone who saw me not as a mother, but as an obstacle. That realization haunted me. Still does. I started therapy. Katie paid for the first few sessions. My therapist, Megan, was the first person who didn't try to fix me. She just listened. You were gaslit, she said simply. They tried to make you doubt your instincts. That's abuse, Jenna. Subtle. Systemic. But real. Emma was growing fast. She'd started smiling, cooing at the ceiling fan like it was her best friend. Every time she looked at me, I felt that fire come back. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilding. Piece by piece. And now, I was ready for the next fight. Matt filed for joint custody 3 weeks later. I wasn't surprised. He'd been quiet, too quiet. No more voicemails, no texts asking how Emma was. Just a notification from my lawyer, petition received, hearing scheduled. He was trying to play the long game. His legal angle shifted. Now it was all about restoring the family unit, ensuring Emma has both parents, and my favorite line, repairing the damage caused by misunderstanding and overreaction. He still hadn't publicly condemned what Alyssa did. Still hadn't taken accountability. But he wanted 50% of my daughter's time. So I got ready. Katie helped me gather even more evidence. I spoke to another woman, Matt's old college ex, who had followed me after reading a vague post I made about maternal boundary violations. She DM'd me saying she'd once caught Alyssa referring to her newborn as our little girl when Matt and she were dating years ago. We couldn't use that directly, but it showed a pattern. My lawyer dug deeper and found a sealed complaint filed years ago from Alyssa's former neighbor. Apparently she'd tried to help with their twins while the mom was in the hospital. The neighbor didn't press charges, but she made a formal report. We filed that with the court. The day of the hearing, Matt came in looking polished and serious, flanked by a new attorney who projected calm, fatherly energy. Their approach was clearly rehearsed: make me look paranoid. Paint Alyssa as misunderstood. Frame me as emotionally volatile and overly dependent on Katie. But I had receipts. My lawyer submitted the evidence, the unsolicited breastfeeding, the voicemails, the texts, and most damning of all, an audio recording I had from a phone call between Matt and me, just after I left. He didn't know I'd started recording. In the clip, he says, "You're being dramatic. Alyssa was just bonding. You should be grateful someone's willing to feed the baby when you can't." The judge listened to the whole thing. Then turned to Matt and asked quietly, "Do you believe it's appropriate for someone to breastfeed a child without the mother's explicit consent?" Matt floundered. I mean, in this case it wasn't malicious. Jenna was out of it. Alyssa stepped in because. The judge held up a hand. So, no consent? Matt stammered. Technically, no. Silence. The judge turned to me and said, "Ms. Carter, you've demonstrated clear, consistent concern for your child's safety, and shown maturity and restraint in documenting rather than retaliating. That matters." I didn't cry until I got to the parking lot. Inside the courtroom, the judge granted me full legal and physical custody. Matt could petition for supervised visits after completing parenting classes and individual therapy, but until then Emma was solely mine. After the hearing, Matt didn't speak to me. He walked out fast, phone to his ear, face pale. His mask had finally cracked. 2 days later, I got a message from a former coworker of his, anonymous account, no profile picture. "Hey. I know this is weird, but word's going around. Matt told some people about the hearing. HR's been notified. They don't love that he kept defending what Alyssa did." A week later, he was let go. A quiet departure, per the company email. The web was starting to fray. Alyssa's perfect image shattered. Matt's job gone. The family that once looked down on me from their granite kitchen counters was now in full damage control mode. And me? I was free. Not just legally, but emotionally. I looked at Emma that night, sleeping in her crib with one tiny fist in the air, and I whispered, "We did it, baby. We're safe now." In the aftermath, it felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting to see if I'd shatter or finally exhale. Matt moved back in with his mother. Word trickled out about the custody ruling, and soon I was fielding texts from numbers I didn't recognize, some supportive, others scathing. "How could you do this to your husband's family?" one read. Another, "You're braver than you know. Thank you for standing up to them." Alyssa vanished from social media. Her Instagram, once filled with curated posts of her children and advice for exhausted mamas, went silent. Then I heard from Sarah, the cousin, who said Alyssa had been quietly removed from the PTA. "There were too many questions about her boundaries around other people's kids," Sarah told me. Some parents started avoiding her at the school drop-off. Her oldest came home crying after classmates whispered about the mom who tried to steal babies. I wish I could say I felt triumphant, but mostly I felt relief. I never wanted to ruin Alyssa's life. I just needed her out of mine. Matt tried reaching out a few more times, but it was different now. No more threats or guilt trips, just short, stilted messages about insurance or Emma's vaccinations. He'd started parenting classes as required, but his calls with Emma were awkward, forced. Sometimes he asked about my plans, but I kept everything businesslike. I'd learned my lesson. The less they knew about me, the better. Therapy became my lifeline. Megan helped me untangle the guilt and self-doubt Alyssa and Matt had planted in me. We worked through the ways my boundaries had been worn down, how small, constant gaslighting can make you question even your own love for your child. Slowly, I stopped flinching every time my phone buzzed. Emma thrived. She started crawling, then walking, babbling her first words. She slept with her hand curled around my finger, as if to remind me I was all she needed. With each day, my confidence returned. I applied for jobs, started freelancing online. Katie would swing by after work, help with Emma's bath, and sometimes we'd just sit on the couch, wine in hand, marveling at how quickly everything could change. The ripple effect of Alyssa's exposure kept going. A mutual friend told me that Alyssa's youngest had to change schools because the stigma was too much. Matt's mother stopped calling altogether. People like to pretend family drama blows over if you stay silent long enough. But some fires, once lit, just keep burning until there's nothing left. For the first time in forever, my house was peaceful. I decorated Emma's nursery the way I wanted, to soft blues, starlight decals, photos of just the two of us. I got a lock for the door. No one came in unless invited. I finally slept through the night. And every morning, when I saw my daughter smile, I knew I'd made the right choice. The final custody hearing came 6 months later. By then, Emma was toddling through Katie's apartment like she owned the place, chasing sunlight and scattering her toys across every surface. Matt had finished his parenting classes and sent an apologetic letter to the court, but it was stiff and strangely formal, more about restoring stability than true remorse. In the courtroom, I felt a steadiness I hadn't known before. My lawyer summarized everything: my documentation, Alyssa's history, the lengths I'd gone to keep Emma safe. Matt's attorney tried to salvage his reputation, pointing to completed classes, his desire for involvement, his supportive family. But the evidence was too much. My notes. The messages. Sarah's statement. The judge didn't even ask Alyssa to testify. Her absence spoke louder than any words. After just 15 minutes, the judge ruled I would keep full legal and physical custody of Emma. Matt could have supervised visits, reviewed annually. That was it. He didn't look at me as he left. No more last-minute pleas. No more attempts to turn me into the villain. Alyssa, I heard, started attending therapy herself, but I doubted she'd ever see her own reflection clearly. I walked out of that courthouse into bright, ordinary sunlight. Katie was waiting with Emma in her arms, grinning. I felt lighter, like I'd finally peeled someone else's hands off my throat. Life after wasn't easy, but it was real. I got a job at a local marketing firm, found a tiny rental house, painted the walls myself while Emma helped with her paintbrush dipped in water. I made new friends, other single moms who understood what it meant to fight for your child's safety and for your own peace of mind. Some days, the old doubts crept in. Did I overreact? Was there another way? But then I'd remember the look on Alyssa's face that day on the couch, the hollow way Matt defended her, and the silent promise I made to Emma the night we left, "You'll always be safe with me." Now, when Emma reaches for me, her fingers sticky, her laugh echoing down the hall, I feel strong. Not just a survivor. Not just a mother. But the protector I always needed, finally stepping into my own power. For every mom who's ever been told she's too emotional, or overreacting, or just hormonal, this is for you. You're not crazy. You're not weak. Sometimes, doing what's right means burning down the life you thought you wanted to save the one that matters most.